Warning, we're going to be discussing events for currently running weekly anime.
If you want to avoid spoilers for certain shows, there are timestamps in the description.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Timesink Anime Podcast. This is week 3 of spring 2019. I'm your host Jay, and this is my co-host Rex.
Hello, welcome back.
Welcome back. So it's been a pretty slow but solid start, I think, to a kind of a just laid back season, which is about what I expected from spring, to be totally honest.
Yeah, we've pretty much talked about this already, but yeah, not a whole lot of crazy good shows.
Yeah, it was hard to beat winter. Let's be totally honest.
Yeah,
here.
it was pretty
it was
strong.
Really hard to beat winter.
Yeah,
but,
and even harder to beat the fall.
Yeah, fall.
What comes? I'm gonna sound really stupid. Fall comes before winter, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because fall had the finale of Banana Fish, and we've already discussed Banana Fish in the past.
Yeah.
Banana Fish was an amazing show.
Among a lot of other good stuff.
Yeah, but anyway, so enough of that. The spring 2019, week 3. So let's start off with news for this week. Rex?
So first up we got the Spice and Wolf VR anime thing that's going to be coming out soon. They announced it's going to be coming out on June 3rd.
I actually remember hearing about that. Wasn't that like they kind of pushed back the release date because like Holo's tail physics or whatever weren't cute enough or something like that?
they were originally going to release it earlier on. It was like really early 2019. It was when they were planning on releasing it, but yeah, the dev came out and said like, yeah, the tail physics on Holo are not cute enough. The ears aren't reacting the way we want to. Because originally they just put in a physics engine and then everything was supposed to react based off of that. But now they're going in and hand animating every single situation manually.
That sounds like it'll be a lot of work, but at the same time, my stance on delaying stuff, is, like games especially, has always been this. I'm all for delays in games as long as A, it's not too long, and B, it serves as like quality of life functions.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that 100%.
I would much rather have a game that took a little while to be like polished up and released rather than a half-finished game where it just didn't work. Like a good example of that was Hello Neighbor, for instance.
Oh god, yeah.
Hello Neighbor, like that actually was a game I did not buy Hello Neighbor, just for the record, but that was a game I was just super excited for. It seemed really interesting, but they released it and it was just a glitchy
it was not done. It was not a finished game.
Yeah, it was bad.
But this Spice and Wolf game is going to be available on HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, and Oculus Go. I have an HTC Vive, and I already have a friend who's buying this on Steam, so I'm just going to play it off of their Steam account. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's like a story mode where you go through kind of like a visual novel, but you're actually, I mean, it's just kind of, you're not really playing as anyone, I think. You're just there. And then there's also just a virtual touch mode where you just get to play with your ears or something like that.
Now,
yeah, it looks pretty cool.
If only they could make you live the sensation of actually petting a wolf girl's ears, and actually make you feel like, oh my god, she's so fluffy.
It's the future.
Yeah, it is the future. So
next up, we got Netflix is producing a new sci-fi original anime, 4 episodes long, called Eden. I don't really know anything about the plot, really. It just showed 2 robots holding a little girl's hand and a picture, but it's going to be directed by Yasuhiro Irie, otherwise known as the guy who directed Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh,
among other
interesting.
things. But that's the most notable thing.
Was he also in charge of directing the original Full Metal Alchemist, or was that a different director? Okay.
Different guy, yeah.
So, because I know that it was produced by the same studio. They were both produced by Studio Bones, just at different times. But,
okay. Yeah, different director.
Yeah, that's really cool. Really,
I think, probably.
Yeah, don't quote us on that. If we screwed up, leave a comment. We will probably make mention of that in a future video.
But yeah, I have high hopes for this. A lot of Netflix original stuff has been pretty kick-ass. Castlevania, Devilman, Castlevania. Was Sirius the Jaeger Netflix produced?
It was produced by Netflix, but yeah, I mean, it was like it was only released in America like a little while ago. But yeah, it was distributed by Netflix at the very least.
Yeah.
That then we've also got Carol and Tuesday, which I am so upset we can't talk about that show.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like watching. So, like Giguk is posting about it because he can watch it because he's in.
He lives in
UK.
England, doesn't it? Yeah.
And everywhere except for America, you can just watch it one episode at a time on Netflix.
You know, because the way that it should be, but
Exactly.
because we live in a dumbass American culture.
But even,
yeah,
it looks pretty cool. I'm definitely gonna check it out.
very good.
Last up, we got the first trailer for Rascal Does Not Dream of Dreaming Girl.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't think. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen the trailer for it yet, no. But it's the movie for Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Yeah, it's going to adapt. For those of you guys who don't know, it's going to be adapting the 6th and 7th volume of the light novels, which is following more about Shoko. Shoko Makinohara, the girl who we saw in his past on the beach.
The girl who may or may not be real.
Yeah, and then she came back as like a little girl later on.
Basically like the possible figment of his imagination that is kind of like kick-started everything, like his philosophy in life and stuff like that, and his quote-unquote first person he ever fell in love with.
Yeah, so I think it's just they're adapting her character arc just in the form of a film, essentially, because we had all the other character arcs were just like 1 or 2 episodes or whatever.
Somewhere I'd say more in the range of like 3-4 episodes, but yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Bunny Girl Senpai was definitely a show, like we've talked about, it was definitely a show that we kind of regret not watching.
Yeah, it slipped under the radar, mostly because it's just I think I just didn't see anybody talking about it until like week 4 or 5.
Yeah, and it was something that we just didn't really talk about, and by the time we decided to watch it, it was already over, so there was really no point in talking about it.
So yeah, long story short, if you haven't seen this show yet, both of us highly recommend watching it. It's good for pretty much anybody. Like, it's got comedy, it's got drama.
It's
I guess not really if you're
not a lot of action, but it's
except the time we kicked the guy in the dick.
Yeah, it's this is probably a comparison that has been done to death. It's very Monogatari-esque, except not nearly. It's Monogatari without all the shaftisms. It's
not nearly as wordy as Monogatari is.
But in terms of like story structure and stuff like that, it's very similar to Monogatari. Like supernatural problems like that are kind of related to real world like problems, but manifest in a supernatural manner. It's really fascinating. I really enjoyed it, and
so if you haven't seen the series, go watch it. If you have, definitely look forward to this movie, and I hope we get a stateside release. Yeah,
I hope we also get a stateside release. So anyway, on to the shows. First up, Bungo Stray Dogs season 3.
First of all,
oh yes, right,
Attack on Titan.
So we've already know that it's not going to be coming out for a while, another 9 days from now. So April 29th. Right?
Yeah, I think so. April 29th at midnight or something like that.
So yeah, basically it's going to be a sort of late release, but that is definitely a show we are going to be talking about. Because,
that's the show we're going to be following for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's a series that we've already talked about. We already know that A, it's a popular show, and B, it's one that we both like.
Yeah,
so
it's same studio, same team, everything, so it's going to be good.
Yeah, so there's really no point in not talking about it. So we're just going to clear the water right there. We are going to be talking about Attack on Titan. If you guys are going to be watching that, then we look forward to talking about it. We look forward to seeing you guys talk about it. Until then, we will have to wait another 9 days. It's a little annoying that it's so late in the season. When it
gave me like
premieres.
A mini heart attack for a second, because when you're like, until then, I'm like, oh wait, is the episode over? It's like what we say at the end of every episode. It's like, oh fuck, did I just have a mini stroke and the episode ended without me noticing?
Yeah, like all of a sudden it just sort of like fast forward, like King Crimson made like time dilate or something. Anyway, so first off, Bungo Stray Dogs season 3. It's more Bungo Stray Dogs. Like,
it's the flashbacky or flashback that ever flashbacked.
Yeah,
I love seeing how young Dazai is still a sassy asshole.
Yeah, young Dazai is still a sassy asshole.
I would say even more of a sassy asshole. Like, because as an adult or young adult, he's sassy, but he's kind of sassy in a mischievous way. When he's a kid, he's just a fucking asshole.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I noticed a little bit about Dazai. So when he was young, before he even became an executive to the Port Mafia, yeah, he was incredibly sassy in the But when he actually became an executive, he became less sassy and just more downright sadistic.
It's true, yeah.
Like, he kind of just became more of a complete psychopath. But then he kind of re-entered that sassiness when he left the Mafia. But yeah, I don't really know. It's a really interesting character progression, to be sure. Like, it's sort of like he started off with a sort of stage of Arrested Development, but then he had to go really quickly. And then he had to mature really quickly, considering all the shit he had to do
in the kind of world he lives in.
Yeah, and then he was able to sort of go back. It's kind of similar to Train Hartnett from Black Cat, if you've ever seen that before.
No.
So basic idea is that Train Hartnett is an assassin. And then he eventually wanted out of that life. And then when he got out of that life, finally, he sort of mellowed out and was able to be like a kid. So
yeah, I can see that.
It's kind of like that. Chuya is a lot of fun to watch. Young Chuya is hysterical.
I didn't expect him to be so such like a leader.
Yeah.
Because I think he's supposed to be the leader of the kind of ghetto area that it was built in that crater.
Yeah, and it seems like he didn't start off as the leader, is the thing. Like,
yeah, and
he kind of was just quote unquote adopted by the sheep, and then
it was probably guilt too.
Yeah,
because by the end of the episode, we learn that.
Spoiler warning, by the by.
If you're listening to this, you've watched it.
Yeah,
Chuya is the
RobiHachi,
the monster that went out of control.
Which we had actually seen that, and like after like seeing that reveal, I was like, oh, that actually makes a degree of sense. Like, because, and they sort of like I hadn't really put two and two together, but the clues were there. Like, because we'd seen in the previous season that Chuya, if he let his powers go out of control, then he became like ridiculously powerful.
Yeah, he just starts tearing shit up.
So I was like, oh, okay, was actually really cool.
Yeah, it looks like definitely that's something he became because no one could stop him. Well, no, Dazai probably didn't stop him originally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely looks like that's what would happen if Dazai didn't intervene.
Yeah, like in the fight against Lovecraft in season 2. Yeah, that definitely seems like to be the most likely scenario. Like Dazai, like it seems that Chuya only is able to go into that state if he wills it at a certain point. Like,
I think it has something to do with taking his hands out of his pockets too.
Yeah, I think so. It's a really bizarre thing, but yeah, now that you mention it, he almost always does have his hand in his pockets. Like in the scene when all those dudes had machine guns and stuff, he just was like flying around with his hands in his pockets.
Dazai specifically brought up, like, why do you always have your hands in your pockets? And Chuya is very avoiding of the question.
Speaking of just Dazai a little bit, like when after he for one thing, Chuya is apparently bulletproof in the sense that he's very much like Accelerator in the sense that he can basically like stop the bullets from hitting him and then redirect them at the person who fired.
Well, I think it's kind of like vector manipulation,
but it's gravity.
It's gravity. Yeah, like he's like, okay, gravity is this way now, so he's pointing gravity towards them.
Yeah, it's similar, but it's not exactly the same. But the idea is bullets cannot hurt him.
Yeah, as long as he's aware of it. I don't think it activates automatically.
Yeah, it's not like Accelerator, who is just overpowered.
Okay, because as soon as they touch him, then he can use his gift to change the gravity on.
And yeah, he managed to make one of the guys get shot by it, and then Dazai like pulls out a pistol. He's like, I can imagine this is going to be very painful for you for several minutes now. Do you want if you might as well tell me if you want to die, just shoot me. But then he just proceeds to shoot him like 50 times.
Yeah, I love that little kind of tirade he goes off onto by himself as he's walking away. He's like, yeah, that's probably the right thing to think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's probably right. It's just, God, he was really fucked up when he was young.
I mean, he's still fucked up, but I
think he's a lot better.
Yeah,
he has like friends and everything.
Yeah, as I've said before, like Dazai's a fascinating character because he's a horrible person trying his damnedest to be a good person, I think. And with some degree of difficulty, because old habits die hard.
I think my favorite, or probably one of my favorite scenes in this episode, was Dazai investigating the Port Mafia guy.
Whose name I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm telling him it's like, yeah, I figured everything out, and you just hear... There's a fucking Chuya kicking through the window.
It reminds me of that scene from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, like when it was in the fight between the androids, like 18 and 19, I don't remember. The kind of like old guy and the fat one, like, and you just hear like Vegeta off screen just going mine. It reminded me exactly like that. I'm like, okay, that was absolutely hilarious. Like, comedic timing on that was just spot on. And this show, is able to handle a bunch of different things really well. Like really good action scenes, like really good tragedy at times, and then on top of that, hilarious comedy when it's appropriate. Like, yeah. The scene with Chuya flying through the window.
And they just kind of immediately snapped back to serious after that, because Chuya revealed, like, yes, I am the
RobiHachi.
And then I think that's where the episode cuts off.
Yeah, and yeah, that was Swiss where we were like...
So it looks like we're going to have either 1 or 2 more episodes, I'm assuming, of a flashback until we get back to... back to the ranch.
I would say probably 2 more episodes, because that was how long the Dazai flashback in season 2 was, 4 episodes, which I have no problem with. The Dazai flashbacks are always fascinating at the very least.
Yeah.
And like they were like in this one, I wouldn't say is as of right now as impactful, but I imagine there's going to be like some huge like emotional payoff for it, kind of explaining a little bit more about Dazai and maybe even a little bit more about Chuya. Because we get to find out maybe what made him who he is and why he became one of the Mafia's most dangerous people. Because that was a big thing about his character. He hates the Port Mafia, yet he kind of resents the fact that he's being forced to work with them.
Yeah. I love the bit where they're at the arcade and he's trying to hide from his friends, and he's like, Chuya-san, why are you hiding over there in that corner?
And then like when his friends pull a knife on Dazai, and Dazai's all pretending to be scared.
Oh no!
And then but he pulls out his phone and just says, "Yeah, release them."
Smooth AF.
Yeah, Dazai is great. Dazai is a great character.
So next up is Demon Slayer. We got the training arc of 1 episode, which so I know you were saying that you normally hate this stuff, like where they just kind of, this is what happened or whatever. Yeah. But it was a really good example of how to do a
kind of
a time lapse.
Yeah, it was let me explain exactly what I usually dislike. So the majority of this episode was like was sort of like kind of the main character narrating over the events of his training. Which normally I hate, because like in animation...
And this is what happened.
And because in animation, I'd much rather just see the events unfold on the screen, because, it's a visual medium. That makes sense. But I was able to kind of stomach it a little bit more here, because it was written through the perspective of him writing in his journal every night. And I'm like, okay, I can actually forgive that. That's a pretty novel way of going about it.
That combined with just the pacing was really solid, too.
Yeah, because we were able to go through 2 years of training in a single episode, but it didn't feel particularly rushed. Yeah. Like every bit kind of stayed just as long as it needed to.
Index.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole thing about this was just Tanjiro slowly getting stronger.
Yeah, it was, and I think they did a really good job of showing him just get a little bit better every 6 months, because I'm pretty sure that's what the time skip they did for every 6 months. I didn't expect Nezuko to be asleep the whole time.
Yeah, I'd actually brought that up. I was kind of offhandedly joking. It's like, geez, she's been asleep for a long time. But and then you're like, no, she's got to be awake and up and just kind of walking around during the day. But then it's like, she's been asleep for this long. I'm like, okay, I was making a joke, but that actually happened.
I'm starting to think you might be right about it just being bamboo, because if it was herbs, I feel like they'd be bad by now, unless he was changing them every night, which I don't think he was.
I mean, or every few days, which that would make sense, and that's something that you wouldn't need to show every time he does it. That would get really repetitive.
Yeah. So it might just be bamboo. I don't know.
Yeah, we have no idea.
So I have an interesting theory about
Sabito
and Makamo.
Yeah.
So he was at the Rock, just by himself the whole time after what was
Hitoribocchi, I think.
Yeah, I think they were
his mentor.
Yeah, after he leaves him. So the the rope that's around the rock, that is it looks pretty much exactly like a Yorishiro, because in Shinto they on trees when you see it hung around trees and stuff.
Yeah,
those are hung around places where they want to attract spirits to.
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought. There was something about that. Like so you're thinking exactly what I am. They were just spirits kind of meant to push him along his journey.
Yeah, I think they are. So they knew the mentor, and they were trained by him. So I think they were probably demon slayers that died in the line of duty. Maybe that's their grave. Maybe it's their gravestone, or they were somehow tied to this location because they knew the mentor, and I do believe that they were alive at one time. But yeah, I think now they were spirits, and they were just the mentor kind of asked them to train him somehow. I don't know all the details.
Yeah, like that would definitely make sense because he specifically says, "I have nothing more to teach you," which could have just as easily been his roundabout way of saying, "Okay, these spirits of my previous deceased pupils will be the ones to carry you along the rest of your journey. It's up to you from this point forward to get stronger," which I think is actually kind of fascinating, and him actually cutting the boulder in that regard is actually sort of like freeing them, really. Yeah,
exactly. That's what it seemed like to me because Sabito looked kind of sad. Like both of them looked kind of sad when he finally won, and Tanjiro actually noticed, like, oh wow, they're sad,
but they're relieved at the same time.
Yeah, and when Sabito finally faded away, and then the mist cleared, and it showed that he cut the boulder. Yeah, I think that was the act of allowing them to pass on.
Which I actually thought was a really cool reveal. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a very well done reveal.
I didn't notice it at the time. Like, I actually had to go back and think about it some more. Which is, I think, what a good anime should do.
Yeah, exactly.
At least this kind of anime.
Yeah, it was really cool. Also, so something that had been brought to my attention. So the voice actor for Tanjiro is actually the same voice actor as Asta from Black Clover.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, which I don't have any problems really with him as Tanjiro. Like there might be some kind of awkward deliveries every now and then, but really I think he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, from what I've heard from people who do watch Black Clover, he gets a lot less
screamy and annoying.
I know he's still screamy, but I guess they changed the voice direction so he's less grating on the ears.
Yeah.
Or something like that, because that show's still going on.
Yeah, the show is still going on. I've never watched more than the first episode of Black Clover. Just
me neither. But yeah, this training arc episode of Dororo Demon Slayer is very good, and I am super excited to see more.
Yeah, it was really good. I can't wait for the final selection. I believe is what it's the final test.
Yeah, because yeah, it was after he broke the boulder, he would be allowed to take part in the final selection.
Now, I will say this. The one thing I didn't particularly like about this episode was the very beginning, where the mentor was basically explaining how the Demon Slayers worked. It's like, okay, we kind of know that already. It just felt like a little bit of an unnecessary padding for time. At least is what it felt like to me. Like, it just felt like kind of like front-loaded information.
Yeah, they did that, I think, in the first episode too, with the samurai guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He was doing that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to get information out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said, it could also be padding for time.
Yeah. I will say this, though. The fight scenes and choreography between Sabito and Tanjiro is actually pretty interesting. Yeah, him, jumping off the trees and stuff.
They did a really good job of showing sword speed.
Yeah.
It's kind of... They cut just enough frames to make it look really fast. That's a hard thing to do, in my opinion. Like, it's easy to just draw kind of blurry, blurry, swingy, swordy looking things.
Yeah, you mean the stuff that Bleach would do constantly?
Exactly, yeah. But I feel like if you just take enough time to draw out just a little bit more frames where you can actually see the sword, it feels a lot more tangible.
Yeah, a little
to
bit
me.
more tangible, a little bit more smooth, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Which, it's Ufotable. That's no surprise.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, Ufotable knows what it's doing. Also, the interesting thing that I also want to bring up is the idea that there are different, like, styles and techniques to demon slaying, because Tanjiro is of the water style, is what it seems like. Like, which it makes me wonder if there are different, like, because the mentor made a specific mention to, like, the specific techniques that he uses, and, like, and just all these different things. So it makes me wonder, there are probably different, like, tribes and different approaches to demons.
Yeah, it's that that shonen flair.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
It's like, this person has this type of special attack, and this person has this type of special attack.
And each person, and on top of that, like, the full focus or full concentration breathing or whatever, which is like, oh, you can basically learn to heal yourself because you're able to, like, use every cell in your body to increase, like, oxygen and blood flow, and it will speed up your natural healing and stuff like that, even though you're still human.
That's probably something like every Demon Slayer has,
Yeah.
to an extent. Also, really sharp katana.
Yeah.
Didn't ever dull, no matter how much he smacked it against that rock.
Yeah. Also,
Also.
yeah, sorry, I keep remembering stuff about this series because what I had brought up before was that it was kind of interesting how in the last episode how the demon didn't die after getting his head cut off, because, like, usually, like with demons, vampires, etc., usually it's decapitation or some kind of
destroy the brain.
Yeah, it's what I was thinking. But they pointed out explicitly here, it's either by sunlight or by decapitating them with a special sword. Keyword there, special sword.
Yeah, it's probably
Like,
the kind of sword that he was given.
Yeah, probably blessed or something of that nature. Or maybe it's something he'll get when he becomes a full-fledged demon slayer. We'll see. I'm really looking forward to future episodes of this. It's really good so far. Or, at the very least, it's an very enjoyable, very pretty show. So next up, Dororo. So the map was kind of just revealed. Dororo didn't know about it ever. And the way they kind of explained it was a little interesting, a little bizarre. Like, I'd never been in a warm bath before, so...
Yeah, I was just like, oh, Dororo.
Yeah, just... I mean, and you were actually a little bit confused by that at first. Like,
It was like, ever?
and then I was like, well, she could have just been bathing in the river this whole time.
That seems what it's been like.
Yeah, which...
And I mean, like, it's strange as who I am now, you know,
Yeah.
living in the modern technology
Yeah.
life that we have, where I can take a hot bath anytime I want.
Yeah, exactly. And it does take a little bit of time to remember. Yeah, this takes place in feudal Japan, where
Where a lot of people probably went most of their life without having a hot bath.
they probably just washed in the river. Like, and sometimes maybe didn't even wash at all if they didn't need to. Like, that must have been a pretty common thing in just medieval times in general. I don't know if Japan was much different in that regard.
Yeah,
But-
when they showed the flashback of how they got the scars,
Yeah,
tattoos.
I would say they're scars.
They look like tattoos.
They're
supposed to be scars, I think, but they look like professionally done tattoos.
Yeah.
But Dororo's mom was like pointing to the naginata his dad was holding, and she was like, "Hey, carve that into me."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that looks like it'll hurt and be nasty." And it's just like, "Oh no, let me put my fucking 10 years of tattoo designing and give you a perfectly like calligraphy looking dragon tattoo."
Yeah, and then on top of that, let's do that also. Like, let's put the other half of it on our sleeping daughter.
Maybe Dororo blocked those memories out?
It maybe. Like,
Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure if I was a really young child and I had someone carving a blade into my back, I would block those memories out to protect myself.
yeah, I mean, yeah, so far that hasn't been particularly explained. Maybe that's something that'll get explained in the future. Like, because you'd think that would, like, something like that would be, like, something that comes to the forefront of your imagination, like, comes to the forefront of your mind every once in a while.
Yeah.
Or it's repressed. Which, either way, okay, whatever. Like, it's a plot point now.
Just imagine Dororo, like, how'd you get that tattoo? You just see Dororo look off into the distance.
It's like with a
Ah! Ah! Ah!
nothing.
I know a guy.
Like, what's the matter? Nothing. Nothing at all. Just like, yeah, just cue like freaking like the 1,000-yard stare and like helicopters like in the background.
So, new lord I was the rich guy who's the lord of the local land they go to in this episode.
He's so creepy.
I was getting pissed because for like 10 minutes he didn't blink. I'm just thinking, just fucking blink.
It's like, that's gotta be painful.
I mean, he looks like he's like got some kind of frog like DNA in him because his eyeballs are in different area codes.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, they're kind of on the sides of his head, sorta. It's very strange.
He seems like a person doing shitty things, but he thinks it's for... He's got that kind of villain who's like, I'm doing this to help my people.
Kind of...
so he thinks he's doing all the good things.
Which is an interesting parallel between him and Daigo, because Daigo claims that he's did it for his people because like his people were living basically in hell pretty much
which I'm sure with Daigo that's part of the reason, but most of it just seems like greed.
Yeah, he wanted personal pride and something to call his own.
And this guy just seems like he actually wants his people to be happy because like when he's interacting with them on the street, he seems very genuine about like wanting to help them and and even his face is a little bit more different than when he's talking to Hyakimaru and Dororo.
Yeah. And it was interesting because even Dororo brings up like how they were having like a hot meal and stuff like that. It's like, wow, it's really interesting. It's really nice of you to go out of your way this much for just total strangers. Which at the end of the episode we find out why.
Yeah. I love how in that scene he's like, so how about that burned down village? And then it's just the geishas are like, bang. And then they just slowly back up out of the room like fucking Homer just backing up into a bush.
Yeah, it's like, did I say something wrong? I'm sorry.
So we know he's lying, obviously. And we know he's working with the monster demon, maybe?
Yeah, it's it's really weird. Also, speaking of the monster this episode, that was unsettling. The weird silkworm thing that was just like crawling through the crawling on the ceiling.
Yeah, he calls those things his children. And this butterfly moth, like a moth demon is like his lover.
It looks like, it's Mothra. It's pretty much Mothra, except not fucking gigantic.
So I'm assuming he fell in love with this moth demon. I don't know if the moth demon is actually in love with him or not. Probably not. Probably just using him. And he agreed to feed his, I'm making air quotes, children, but he would never sacrifice any of his own people. Because his own people look like they're pretty happy with their lives. Nobody goes missing or anything, and they never talked about that. But it seems like every traveler he probably brings in gives them a nice warm meal, a bed to stay in, and then just feeds them to the little,
exactly.
Gross little silkworm babies.
Yeah, it's unsettling. It's very disturbing. But it was actually a pretty cool scene when Hyakimaru was just kind of laying still for a while the silkworm was getting closer, but then immediately like takes off his arm and just slashes at it.
I was wondering if he was actually asleep, but yeah, he was waiting for it to get closer.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because even Dororo was like kind of just saying, "Wake up,
wake up!"
Just wake up. It added to the tension of this. Dororo still continues to be good. I think it's sort of like it feels like it's a little bit in filler territory at the moment because. I mean, while we still
that's like been the entire first season, really, the first core.
Yeah,
most of it was just
him
the
meeting
story
up with
Blank.
his father. Yeah,
no, that was just near the end. Most of it's just been the story of this thing, the story of this thing, and it was him killing a demon.
Yeah,
like, and that's where I think this show shines really well because it is just Dororo and Hyakimaru kind of
going on a journey together.
Yeah, journeying together, kind of building their character, killing demons slowly. You got a new body part.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not saying that really as a point of criticism. It just at the moment it just kind of feels like after getting introduced to the big plot of the show.
You think it's weird going back to that?
A little bit, yeah. Like it feels like a little bit of a, I wouldn't say necessarily change in tone, but it definitely like a change in theme, I guess. Like because. Kind of going back more to the Monster of the Week sort of formula.
Yeah, the big plot where he met with his dad and his brother was kind of like a checkpoint. Yeah, is what it felt like. They were stopping to give a little bit of important detail, cutting Tahomaru.
Yeah,
his eye down, and then he's probably gonna end up becoming like a more prominent character.
And then And then now we have this new plot point of Dororo trying to figure out what to do with her father's money, pretty much.
Oh yeah, we Golden Kamui now.
Yeah. So it just
Gotta find the gold.
It's kind of interesting because Osamu Tezuka, I believe his name is, the author of the original story.
Tezuka,
thank you.
Tezuka, I think his name is, yeah.
Osamu Tezuka, the grandfather of most modern manga, as he's often referred. It seems like he's inspired like quite a few works. Like, it's no shock because he's the grandfather of manga, because the author of Berserk actually has apparently cited Dororo as his favorite Tezuka manga. And if it's Golden Kamui, I wouldn't be, like, with the whole map in the back thing, I wouldn't be surprised if the Golden Kamui author was partially inspired by Dororo in that regard. It makes some degree of sense.
What was the saying? Like, all water comes from the ocean?
Yeah, something like that.
Something saying like that.
I've often ascribed to the idea of there were only 7 original literary ideas. Everything else is just a reproduction or on those ideas, which that's not surprising. I'm just saying it's cool to see like the original, like, and sort of and as I've said before, Studio Mappa has done a really good job of like taking sort of like classic mangas and adapting them to a modern audience, like they did with Banana Fish, and they're continuing to do with Dororo.
So next up is Fairy Gone, and first thing I want to say is the soundtrack is so cool.
The soundtrack is really good.
It is a little loud sometimes, I think. Like it sounds like like they're trying to fight, and you're like, yes, I will fight you, and then like as you're talking, it just slowly gets like, so I can't hear you over the band that's playing. But that being said, yeah, it was
the sound
like a kick-ass like rock punk kind of.
Yeah,
sound.
the soundtrack like kind of like flourished at just the right time. Like you could kind of hear it in the background sort of at first, but then when the fight finally picked up, that's when it really kicked in. And I was just thinking to myself this whole time, holy shit, this soundtrack is good.
Yeah.
Like I normally don't go out of my way to like listen to like anime soundtracks or whatever. There are some songs like intros, OP songs that I will occasionally go out of my way to listen to, but very few like soundtracks. Holy shit, this soundtrack is good, and it definitely deserves mention. So,
downside I have so far with this series, the CG on the fairies that the people summon is kind of grating to me. Like it seems like just something that PA Works should be doing better. Really.
Now, I'll agree with that. I think that the thing about fairies is that I think they are supposed to be slightly otherworldly anyway, so I would personally say that maybe they are supposed to look like they don't necessarily belong. Like, so, I mean, I can agree that it does look a little bit jarring, but they are supposed to be beings that are sort of like otherworldly and sort of just not really supposed to exist here. Like, it just is. So I think them looking sort of jarring is fitting in a sense. I will agree that I don't think the CG was ever, like, their movements and stuff have never been so distracting to where it took me completely out of the experience myself.
Yeah, I'd agree there.
Like, they didn't look like Overlord Season 3, like, models.
Minor complaints. It's not taking me out of the show,
yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure. We got a pretty kick-ass fight scene with the blonde guy, Free, and Marlia, I think her name is?
Marlia. So we also figured out a little bit on how fairies actually work. Like, apparently it's kind of like Evangelion, like in the sense of how the pilot will feel the pain that the Eva feels, but it won't like translate to their body directly. Yeah,
because when Marlia had her fairy's arms cut off, it was like, I'm assuming she probably felt like her arms were cut off.
But her arm, and even it looked like her arms had been cut off because she had been like hiding them in her jacket.
Yeah, but it's probably that like, so she felt like her arms were cut off, but her arms were still there. So there's probably a really weird mental disconnect between that going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why Free's like, "Oh, are you okay? I know you're feeling weird. Like, just calm down, breathe."
Yeah, exactly.
So it's probably something everyone has to get used to.
Yeah, I imagine so. It's very Evangelion in that sense because the Eva pilots feel the exact same thing. They don't necessarily. Like, to them, it feels like they're losing an arm or losing, like, part of their body or whatever, but they're really not in real life. But yeah, so it's sort of that weird, like, psychological disconnect that takes time to get used to. I just thought that was a cool little detail. Evangelion still proving to be how influential of a series it is. But I also thought it was really cool, like the how they had like a sniper and a spotter character, because we met more of the members of Dorothea.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing the kind of unique forms that fairies can take.
Yeah,
because like until now we've pretty much seen
combat, more like close range combat based fairies.
Things that fight for you,
yeah,
or things that go out and do things. Like we saw the scout was pretty cool. It was like a frog, I think it was.
Yeah,
frog looking thing.
Yeah,
but I was really interested in the snipers because it was still a living creature, but it like wrapped around his arm.
Yeah,
and, like, spiraled around it, and he used it like a sniper rifle.
Yeah, I agree. It was really cool, and how once again, like you even pointed out, it was basically just like a sniper and spotter while we were watching that. I was like, yeah, that's a really cool way they went about it. It was just clever. Yeah. I really liked it.
And so this blonde guy, he was I think it was a war buddy of Freeze.
Yeah, or at least comrade who had after the war was over had joined the mafia to find some degree of purpose.
Yeah, which I probably one of the most interesting things about this series so far is just seeing what the people who had fairies put into them are just doing now. Like, because I'm really fascinated when they were just traveling through the forest and you see the castle, and then early on you see the castle you saw earlier on in the flashback of Free fighting on there, and is when his friend died. But we're seeing the almost immediate results of a war-torn kind of medieval society.
Yeah,
not really medieval. It's like a Renaissance, I guess.
I'd say
Renaissance age.
It's like Renaissance. It actually has it has guns and stuff. So I'd say I'd say 1900s, because they had rifles and stuff.
Yeah, I thought the Renaissance age was
Renaissance had more muskets and stuff. Not really.
Yeah, they didn't have any machine guns.
No.
Anything? No, I mean in the show they didn't have any machine guns. It was just pretty much muskets. Or I guess probably a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like there's a point where swords are still being used and guns are just being introduced.
Yeah, that's I'd say fair.
But it's just fascinating seeing this world where they just had a war, and now they're dealing with the immediate repercussions. Because Free was saying the war's over, and I think it was Marlia saying, well, Free said if they're still using these artificial fairies, the little mechs, pretty much.
Yeah.
Then is the war really even over?
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely kind of along the lines of, well, the war is quote unquote over. So what's left? It's definitely like Golden Kamuy with Sugimoto, like somebody who had basically completely destroyed himself and rebuilt himself to try and survive on the war.
Why are we still here?
So yeah, when he finally is done with it, what's the point? There's nothing really left to go back to. So they're all trying to figure out ways they go back to it. Also, interesting parallel between Marlia and Free. Marlia basically thinking that she's always been a symbol of bad luck and how unlucky she's been, whereas Free realizes that he is lucky, just in the worst possible ways. Because he survived that day, but at the cost of his friend's life.
Yeah.
And Marlia just seems to have bad shit happen around her constantly.
Oh yeah, she's like the cursed child or something they called her.
Yeah, they think that she's just a cursed child. Also, pretty cool about Marlia how she's I like it when characters have reasons for why they're good at the things that they're good at. They're not just good at them randomly just because, or there's some tangible reason for why they've done this. Marlia is good at shooting and she's good at tracking stuff. In her home village, she was a hunter, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
essentially a D&D ranger.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought that was super cool. I really liked that.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see just kind of how many organizations are going to be involved in this whole conflict, because we're almost certainly going to see more fairy soldiers being brought into this story.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm interested to see how Marlia kind of becomes more used to the idea of fairies and using it for her
because she's special. Because everybody else had fairy organs implanted into their body,
which looks disgusting and painful, by the way.
And she had the fairy just blit. Just go into her body by itself.
And which the leader of Dorothea, or the person in charge, basically ordered Free to make a redacted report that didn't include that. She's like, I'll just have that for my personal information. Rewrite it now. So I'm actually interested to see more of these characters, more of that character in particular, just more of how Dorothea as an organization functions. Next up, Fruits Basket. It's Fruits Basket. It's just good. It's
well said. Everybody can go home now. The podcast is over. It's Fruits Basket.
No, but in all seriousness, like a lot of like after these past few weeks of watching it, like Fruits Basket has been such an influential show. It's probably in an influential series. It's been like a series that probably it was most people's first series they ever read, or at least one of the first series they ever read in middle school, high school, whatever. And it's a huge series, and and watching these past few weeks, I can certainly understand why.
Yeah, my favorite thing about this series so far is that you have such a ridiculous situation as Zodiac, people that represent the Zodiac, when they're hugged by girls, they turn into animals. But we're dealing with such a personal kind of situations. Just these characters easily could have had these problems if they hadn't been supernatural characters.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the supernatural touch kind of adds a nice little twist to the kind of character drama going on. Because Yuki and Kyo,
yeah, the two.
It's fascinating seeing. So Kyo's the cat, right?
Yeah, Kyo is the cat.
Yeah, it's fascinating seeing Kyo's struggle of wanting to be included in this big Zodiac family.
He wants to be an official member of the Soma clan.
He wants to be recognized, and then you see Yuki wanting. He's jealous of Kyo's just ability just to interact with people outside of the clan. So they have this kind of opposite agenda going on. And it creates a really interesting tension and drama between them. And it makes all of the I'm mad at you, so I'm going to attack you kind of thing actually mean a lot to me.
Exactly. It's these scenarios. That's a great way of putting it. These scenarios and this concept, ridiculous as it seems, once you actually start to sit down and watch it and sort of understand more of the characters' motivations and what they're going through, it all feels these easily could just be a real situation. It almost doesn't need the supernatural aspect to it.
Yeah, exactly. The supernatural aspect is just kind of flavoring.
Exactly, and it just makes it really cool to watch. And it does. Admittedly, most of the time it's just added for comedic effect. That's really what it is. At least so far, what it's felt like, the whole supernatural, they turn into their respective zodiac animal. It just has been added for comedic effect.
Yeah, so far it's only been used for jokes. Mostly.
Kyo suddenly having a bunch of cats surround him when the cats are just magnetized to him pretty much.
Yeah,
he's also
I want to say the detail on those cats was stunning.
Yeah.
They just had there's little chibi cats with 2-second drawn on faces to them.
Yeah, exactly. They look like the cat. They look like the cats from Azumanga Daioh or something like that, because I've seen that clip before where there's just a bunch, an army of cats.
Certainly no shoujo looking Haru from My Roommate is a Cat.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's especially hilarious when Toru accidentally gets pushed into Yuki and he turns into a rat. They're just walking down home together, and you're just seeing a tiny little rat walking beside
on
her.
His hind legs.
Yeah,
which I want to say, not a complaint, but I saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah,
when the scene was getting close to it, I was like, she's gonna touch him, and then he's gonna turn into an animal, and shenanigans will ensue.
Yeah,
but he's just talking, and like I said earlier, really crazy situation of animals, whatever. And in this situation, even when you had a high school girl and a tiny person who was turned into a rat walking together, and the rat's walking on his hind legs, very goofy. It was a very somber, serious conversation.
Yeah,
it didn't feel goofy at all because of the context and that the characters were taking it very seriously.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a really enjoyable ride so far, and I'm looking forward to just more of the series. Like
Agreed.
it's just like all the character, like Toru is the most wholesome person ever.
Yeah, like you said, it's so easy to see how the show has been beloved for so long. After watching it for the first time.
And people who are like super excited that it finally is getting an adaptation that it deserves. But it's basically Fruits Basket Brotherhood. But I can really appreciate that. Also, Toru has like the most like nonsensical ideas that somehow make a modicum of sense.
The analogy she made.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that was so like stupidly deep.
Yeah,
like, in a good way.
It had like it had no right being as deep as it was.
No,
it's like,
maybe your plum's on your back.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I was just sitting there thinking like, wow. That makes so much sense.
it's so stupid. But...
Yeah, because how she's saying like, yeah, nobody can see their own. Essentially saying nobody can see their own merits because they're always looking at everybody else's merits.
Yeah, and the way she described it is like, yeah, it's basically like a rice ball. Like if the pickled plum is almost always on a person's. It's always on the back of the rice ball, so you're never really able to see that yourself.
That was really cool.
It was, and it just kind of lends some credence to the idea that Tori's a sweet girl. She's surprisingly wise, but doesn't always know necessarily how to articulate her ideas. And she always gives them like in the strangest ways, but you're like, wow, that's actually surprisingly deep. Because she seems like such a total airhead most of the time, but she's a really sweet, really smart girl at times. Also, Yuki just wanting to finally admit just like, hey, I'll play rich man, poor man with you guys next time. Like finally just sort of realizing, okay, I need to open up to people. Like I can't just keep myself at a distance forever.
Yeah.
I thought that was very nice.
Yeah, there's really good, like I said before, really good reasoning for the characters acting the way they are. And instead of, in a lot of anime, they just kind of act that way with no reason. Like,
yeah.
So next up is Helpful Fox Senko-san, where I have never been more happy to watch a show and also angry to watch a show at the same time.
Explain your feelings.
We got this guy who's working hard at a job. It's like, I work hard at my job. I don't have some fox 800-year-old fox goddess to come home and clean my ears every day.
Yeah, to clean my It's sort of like one of those things that like,
fuck.
I want that.
Exactly.
But it's something. But the situation is so ridiculous. You realize, you never really can have that. But
the show is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
Like, just watching it, I just feel like I'm sinking back into my chair, and it's just very comforting to listen to because the main character and I don't remember the business guy's name is, him and Senko-san, both voice actors they have for their roles, they, like, most of the time, unless it's a stressful situation, they speak in very slow, calming tones, like, and it's just very chill.
Yeah,
the whole time.
It's a very comfy show. Like, it's not as like comfy as say something like Laid Back Camp, but it definitely gives me those kind of vibes.
I'd say it's a different kind. Like, because Laid Back Camp was comfy, like when you want to snuggle up in a blanket. This is comfy, like you're just getting ready for bed, and it's just nice hearing, like kind of like an ASMR. Situation.
Yeah.
Which I want to actually, I haven't done it yet, but I want to put on headphones for like the end bit.
Yeah,
where Senko-san is like talking to you about like the girlfriend video essentially.
Yeah, like how's your day?
I kind of want to just see if there's actually like ASMR bits when she's cleaning your ears.
Yeah, I remember you bringing that up. The thing about this is, I want to point out it's very interesting and maybe for some a little troubling. Like the whole like she's 800 years old. She's 800 years old. She's 800 years old.
I'm dipping into FBI territory.
Yeah, just
the characters.
Officer. The thing about it is it's an interesting dynamic, I'd say, between the two of them, because she is someone who looks like a pretty young girl, but who's like wise beyond her years, and she's literally 800 years old. She's a goddess. She's seen a lot of stuff. Meanwhile, but she physically looks like a child. Meanwhile, he is older looking, but in her point of view, he's just a child because he hasn't lived for nearly as long as she has. It's just a little interesting parallel between the two of them, and I think is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, I going back to like the first episode when she when she's in his house, and he just kind of like picks her up, sets her outside, and is like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't want to go to jail for this whole situation.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd say that she's actually just like trying to get him to actually like take care of himself better, which I'd say that maybe that's the end game for this show. Like not necessarily learning how to like rely on somebody completely, but learning how to take care of himself better.
Yeah,
because it seems like that's more what she's doing.
Yeah, there's not really. It doesn't seem to me, anyways, that there's really any romantic undertones. At least so far. I mean, kind of a little bit, or not really romantic, but erotic, quote unquote, when he was like messing with her tail, and she looked like she was about to bust an 800-year-old fox nut.
Yeah, or when he was doing the same thing with her, when he was doing the same kind of thing
oh my god!
Ears. And then he just pokes her in the ears.
That sound effect of him just stabbing her ears, pretty much.
And that face.
I absolutely love this show. I'm surprised by how funny it's actually turning out to be, too.
And it's
the comedic timing's really good.
Yeah, it's just sort of, and as you've said, it's a very, like, comfy, like, feeling comedy, though.
Yeah, I will look forward to this every week, like, no matter what, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. The other really interesting thing about it, like, I kind of brought this up after we'd watched this episode, it almost seems like it's actually trying to teach people, like, kind of lonely men to be able to take care of themselves as well. Like, this is how you clean your house. You start by cleaning the walls, and then you sweep the floor. Like, okay, I'm learning. Like, I'm learning how to clean up my house and not be a complete slob. I mean, I'm not 100% sure if that's what they're going for, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Like, because it just seems like anime has a tendency to do that. Like, how do we get a bunch of weebs to go outside? Let's make camping look really fun.
Yeah. It definitely seems like a show meant to either make people feel better or help people relax, and also just kind of help people, like you said, generally improve their lives. That might be the message behind it all.
I think so.
But also it could just be like, cute fox girl.
Yeah, it could just be cute fox girl. I could be like way overanalyzing it.
Either way, I'll eat it up.
Yeah, I'm adoring this show. It's so wholesome and so just pleasant to listen to. Next up is Hitoribocchi. I said this last week. It's like Watamote if I didn't feel like completely like cringy. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, like, Bocchi is an incredibly awkward little girl, but at the same time, it's forgivable. She's a little girl.
Yeah.
Like,
teenage girl.
She's just entering her first year of middle school, so.
This show is hitting some surprisingly funny notes.
Yeah.
A little bit of actual touching messages. Exactly. Like when they finally bring in, it starts with an H.
Aru, Hosho.
Hosho, yeah. When they finally bring her into the fold, for lack of a better term, that's kind of sweet. When Hosho steals the sucker, he's like, "I'm taking this one," and Nako's like, "It's fine. I finally started bringing 3 anyways." And
yeah, exactly. It was just
really surprisingly sweet.
Yeah, it is, situation. and just seeing like the sort of like rivalry between the two of them, like Aru like trying to be like the prim and proper student, and then Nako looking like a total delinquent, but the two of them kind of butting heads over that because Nako's just all making fun of the fact it's like, oh, well, you're ridiculously unfortunate. Like,
yeah,
they play on the unfortunate angle so much. Like, you even said this, like you couldn't believe that, like you couldn't hear the word unfortunate without immediately thinking of Hitoribocchi.
Yeah, they played the bit so well in this episode, and how every time Nako said like unfortunate, Hosho's immediate response was just a fucking headbutter or something like that.
Yeah, and she would even like kind of like slide it in there like really sneaky. It's like, oh, how unfortunate. Yeah. Just stuff like that. Nako's easily one of the better characters in this show so far.
She's my favorite.
Yeah, she's my personal favorite.
My favorite bit in this episode was when after Bocchi was sick.
Yeah.
And Nako and Hosho went to her house. You see Bocchi is coming out like, "Hey, it's me. Do you remember me?" And Nako's like, "Who?"
Yeah, I love
Bocchi. You're so precious.
Yeah, because the whole time, like, I mean, and as someone who's dealt with like social anxiety and stuff like that, that is kind of like something that some people are afraid of. Like, you're afraid that your friends don't actually care about you.
You haven't forgot about me yet, have you? In the text messages?
I mean, for me, it's never been quite that extreme, but it's been like something like...
You think about stuff like that, though. Like,
yeah, you do.
Imagine, like, I know for every successful scenario in my head, I imagine 100 unsuccessful scenarios.
Exactly. Like, it's kind of like Infinity War. Like, the whole, I saw like 19,000 scenarios, and there's only one where we actually come out on top. And that's pretty much what it's like living with social anxiety, apparently.
I definitely feel that. Like, I don't throw up when I'm around stressful situations.
Yeah,
I don't pass out when I'm extremely happy.
but I don't nag my friends saying, "Hey, you haven't forgotten me yet, have you?" But it's always one of those things. Like, I can certainly relate to it because, like, the whole, you're worried that your friends will forget about you, or maybe they're just putting on airs because they don't want to like hurt your feelings, but so they're just putting on a nice mask around you, but in reality, they just kind of turn as like, fucking bitch.
Yeah, I think everybody has an inner Bochi.
Yeah, and exactly. And Bochi is precious. She deserves all the head pats, and she deserves all the good friends. I hope she becomes less awkward, as I said earlier, but I thought it was
go ahead, sorry.
I thought it was hilarious when Nako finally entered her room for the first time. It's like, oh, it's like, this is just a normal house, and then she sees like the trying your best fairy or whatever. It's like, or maybe not.
Yeah. I think a lot of the hilarious jokes aside for this show, I think a lot of what makes it interesting is that Bochi is on some level for most people so relatable.
Yeah,
like it's obviously played up to the extreme, but I think everybody has those moments where they're thinking, like you said, they're worried about what looks like to other people silly things, but to you is just like the most important thing.
Exactly.
It's hilarious and wholesome and surprisingly touching.
Yeah, surprisingly touching and just really funny. Like, not just like kind of comfy funny like Senko-san. Like, this actually, the comedic timing is pretty damn on point.
Yeah.
Like, and
probably gonna be watching the show for the rest of the season.
Yeah, probably 100%.
So next up is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind. You were right. It's Metallica. I mean, to no one's surprise.
Yeah, and it could be one of those things like they could have just easily played it off like metallic, but
you can hear him saying Metallica.
Yeah, exactly. Like, does this surprise literally anyone? No, like, it doesn't. Very interesting fight.
Yeah, I want to talk about why the boss didn't just come out and deal with Risotto himself in the beginning. Mm. He had the option to. He had plenty of time to pop out and do something. My only guess is that he left Doppio out on purpose because Doppio is his alternate personality, and he can't, like, so the cost of him, either if this alternate personality generating itself or him creating this alternate personality, was he couldn't just have him do all the things that he could do. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, stands are like kind of alternate personalities in their own way. Yeah. And I think that this alternate personality couldn't do everything he has. Mm-hmm. So maybe he's giving this opportunity to let Doppio have some more experience.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Have some more experience, have some more
some golden experience.
That was a cringe-worthy joke. But anywho, the thing about, I agree with that. Doppio is it's definitely like he's trying to just strengthen that persona so that he doesn't have to like come out all the time, is the thing. Because in that regard, it kind of like is ultimately what the boss is trying to do. Like, he wants to be known to the world as little as possible. So if he has like an alternate persona, Doppio, who can do things on his own, then he doesn't have to show up anymore unless it's in absolutely dire situations. So I imagine that might be also his endgame. He wants to have Doppio like be like sort of self-sustaining in most regards, so he can kind of blend in easier. Mm-hmm. He just looks like some punk-ass kid on the street.
Oh, he looks like a really nice kid.
Well, yeah. A really nice kid with a really dark secret.
And a crazy haircut.
Yeah, crazy haircut, which allows him to see the future, apparently.
I think that was just visualization for the audience.
I know, but it's still funny. Like, it's just really funny.
It's
like
use King Crimson's
foresight.
No, it was a word for it. Not requiem. It was something music related.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a reference to a song by King Crimson, maybe. But I don't know. Like, I'd actually forgotten. JoJo's one of those things. Like we don't like for these opening weeks. Just by the by, we don't always take notes for like these opening weeks.
Yeah, there's too many shows to talk about.
Exactly. So basically, this little stand here, like basically just a portion of King Crimson's power is bestowed upon Doppio, is what it seems like, and that's the way the boss describes it. So sort of like the foresight ability, as well as the ability to punch the ever-loving fuck out of things.
Yeah, you give him the foresight ability and the arms.
Yeah.
Which is the thing. He's like, okay, you need to get within 2 meters.
Exactly.
This episode was hard to watch. A lot of like the damage that Doppio was taking from Metallica.
Yeah, like the
scissors. Oh my god, fucking.
That actually hurts my throat just thinking about it.
Yeah. And then like what's his name? Risotto is slowly catching on to how his ability was working. They did a lot of kind of hand wavy, but also kind of clever usage of King Crimson. How they showed a foot flying away, but it was actually Risotto's foot. And then they doubled back on idea later on when it looked like Doppio had part of his head missing. But it just turned out that it was just Risotto's blood being. It was turning out the same way when Risotto made himself invisible. Which made part of Doppio's head invisible, so it looked like Doppio was missing part of his head.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty clever little detail.
Yeah, it was a good mix of Araki bullshit and actual clever work on the stand.
Absolutely, it seemed like the majority of this fight just felt like a little bit of just Doppio trying to buy time in a pretty clever way, mind you. But it just felt like Doppio trying to buy time for the boss.
And it's interesting how they don't actually the boss doesn't have 100% control over Doppio, because there's a lot of times where he's just like, no, just run. Just get out of here. Avoid damage. And Doppio's saying, like, no, I can actually take him out. So it's not just a personality that the boss can directly control.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I want to see more of, how, that relationship came to be. And exactly, once again, just figuring out who the fuck is the boss? It's sort of like the whole Yoshikage Kira situation all over again. Just wanting to find out more about who Kira is as a person.
Yeah, and definitely, I said last episode, a lot more interested in the boss now. He's not just this enigmatic, mysterious figure.
Yeah, that was something that kind of made you interested in him. But now you're just now that you know that of his existence, you're like, who is he?
Yeah.
But I think it was really weird, the whole... I'm pretty sure that's not how blood works.
Oh, yeah. I use Metallica. I use the iron in your blood to... Or I think it's the iron anywhere.
Yeah.
You can anywhere there's iron, you can make it into actual iron. Yeah, I'm pretty sure your blood doesn't have enough iron
to create scissors.
Yeah, or anything, really. Maybe if you had... I think if you take, all the iron in your body, you could maybe make, I don't know, a bolt or something. And even then, it's not the same kind of iron.
I really don't know. At the same time, the whole thing, where it's just oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to slowly drain iron out of your blood because that iron is what helps carry oxygen to you. And
that's a thing.
I mean, that is a thing.
That's actually a thing. So they mixed in a lot of pseudoscience with actual science, and at the end of the day, suspension of disbelief allowed me to thoroughly enjoy this fight.
Absolutely.
It's just looking back on it, it's nah.
I'm pretty sure that's not how blood works.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care. At the same time, I'm not.
It's better than Brick Snake, that's for sure.
Okay. I actually talked with a friend recently about Brick Snake.
Go on.
Yeah. What?
No, go on.
So the thing about it is, there are plenty of situations in JoJo where you're like, okay, that was so stupid. But it's sort of like the Pacific Rim effect, where there are so many things that are just so stupid, but at the same time, they are just stupid enough to where they kick ass. But then there's some moments like Brick Snake where it's just that was so dumb, it was just dumb.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never be able to get over Brick Snake. I won't be able to.
I think Risotto's dead.
I'm
Probably.
pretty sure, because he took quite a few bullets from Aerosmith.
Bullets through him.
Yeah.
And like it looks like they came out the other side. I mean, well, we didn't expressly see him dead, per se. Because, I mean, we saw him attach a foot back to his body, so it's entirely possible he could use Metallica to close up holes in his body.
Possibly, but I really don't know.
Yeah, I do think that he is dead, but I wouldn't be surprised if they, pulled something out of nowhere and he's not actually dead. So now I think the boss is just going to be searching to try and stop Abbacchio's Moody Blues.
Abbacchio from playing Moody Blues, because if he plays that, then he's screwed. Next up, Kono Oto Tomare. The club is getting even bigger. We introduced more people to the party.
I love the female character in the club.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Because, like I said last episode, I thought that it was such a generic, kind of like nice girl.
Yeah.
But they play it off so well of that's just her fake personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Her real personality is also kind of a generic personality. It's like she's like kind of cold calculating person who's just doing whatever they want to get what they want. But the combination of that being her real personality and the other stereotypical thing being her fake personality kind of meshes together to create an actually interesting character.
Yeah, it's like tropes that we know, tropes that we're familiar with, character archetypes we're familiar with, but at the same time, they're done in a way that doesn't feel ridiculously generic, at least not to me.
Yeah. The one complaint I think I do have about this show so far is that the art style seems a little uninspired. Like there's a lot of flat colors, and for lack of a better term, the characters just look like generic anime characters. There's not a lot of flair to the art style. I
guess I can see where you're coming from. Like, yeah, there's not a whole lot of pizzazz that really separates it from everything else. Like, it looks good. Like, the characters don't. Yeah, the character designs aren't bad or anything per se. Yeah. But I can understand what you're saying. It's kind of not. It doesn't do anything in its own right to stand out.
Like, for example, Marsh Comes In Like a Lion.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a... Just the characters just popped out of the screen so much visually. Like, the art style was so good.
And that's in part because of the original source material being so well drawn, and then also Shaft doing what Shaft does, and sort of performing all the Shaftisms.
Just personally, I'm not a fan of that homogenized art style.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, and I kind of agree. At the same time, I think that it's all good, and the story, like, it's nothing amazing, but it's serviceable. And given the story that we're working with here, I'd say that it's worked. That it's fine. Like, I actually enjoy the story that we're being introduced to here.
Yeah, the art doesn't do anything crazy, but also it's a solid base for them to tell the story. I'm really glad that they're going the direction they are with the kind of giving us more detail on the Koto itself.
Yeah.
Because the female club member is kind of explaining to everyone how it works. And it was a really good way of explaining to the audience as well. Because I know nothing about a Koto.
Yeah, I just know that it sounds cool.
Yeah, like, it's like a stand-up string instrument.
Yeah.
With weird looking picks. Also, I didn't expect those things to cost like $50.
Yeah, $50
for
per
one
person.
Set.
Per person. It just no, I don't want to spend that much.
Yeah. That was really nice, really cool seeing Kudo.
Yeah, Kudo.
Seeing Kudo, and he like couldn't. He's like, all I got is like 700 yen or whatever, and she's like, nah, you cleaned it.
It's like, you repaired the instruments. So by the way, but then his friends say, so do you extend it off? He's like, no, I'm not going to extend it to people who don't really care. So in this episode, it makes about sense. It's episode 3. We get introduced to the stakes of at least the start of the series. Or at least these next couple episodes. So how do we get the Koto Club to actually establish themselves?
Yeah, it's... Before it was the threat was getting enough members. Now they actually have enough members. But now they have to play a piece enough to not... They already decided they can't impress the
The principal, the
principal's
vice principal.
Yeah, vice principal. So they decided that they're gonna have to impress a bunch of other people in a public venue, so you can't just shut him down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that was actually really really well handled by crap. I can't remember the girl's name. Yeah, but just he was saying, "Oh, I'll give you a week," and then she basically negotiates it. No, give us a month.
In her fake nice.
Yeah,
everyone loves me.
Yeah, exactly. And then once she finally kind of drops the persona to the other three members,
as soon as they were officially members,
yes, like good. So I don't have to go. So I don't have to go easy on you anymore.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty well handled. The only complaint that I have really with this series so far is that the main character is not particularly
he's so forgettable.
The main character hasn't done anything in particular yet. His Kurata is his name, but we haven't seen him do much yet. It's just sort of like he's the thing kind of bringing everybody together for now. I imagine that once we kind of get more introduced to the other characters, then we'll start to kind of retreat inward and figure out his motivations more specifically.
Yeah, I hope they do that. I hope they do give enough time to kind of make us care for each character individually, because as it stands now, it looks like the three friends are going to be treated as one single character.
Yeah,
really. They're just kind of Kudo's friends that join the club, but it's a club.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know about every individual member.
Exactly,
kind of their motivations,
like each person's motivation. It's sort of going back to March Comes In Like a Lion. Just the idea of like each individual shogi player figuring out what they went through, like what made them who they are. It's a character-driven show, so we want to figure out more about the characters driving the show forward. So I agree. I thought one of the best scenes in this is like when Kudo was legitimately like he made like a koto out of cardboard so that he could remember like the string positions and stuff like that and figure out how to play in his own time. And then he gave it to his three friends, and they kind of mocked the idea, thought it was kind of stupid, but there was like that scene where you saw the girl and Kudo just kind of back to back against the same wall. I thought that was a nice bit of visual storytelling and just a pretty cool scene in general.
Yeah, because he said, like, I'm making it to make her speechless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it turned out that's actually what he did. For
exactly.
A moment. He didn't really see it himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she was going to talk or confront him, and then she just immediately ducked behind the wall.
Yeah, exactly. It was a nice little scene. I really like this show so far. I'm glad we picked it up.
I have high hopes. Going to keep watching it for sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing like the kind of drama between the girl and her mother, and then also I also want to point out it was hilarious like seeing that a bunch of elementary school kids were like ridiculously good at playing the koto, and that was her reasoning. Like, well, we could play something simple, but you know what that would mean, right? And that means that they would just be below a bunch of grade schoolers.
So next up is Midnight Occult Civil Servants.
So we get a little bit more insight into the main character and what his shtick is. Turns out he is somebody that actually just has the innate ability to understand the anothers, the ears of sand, as they're called.
So we know more about his abilities, but doesn't have a lot of personality.
Yeah, that's true.
It is episode 2.
Yeah.
So obviously going to give it at least one more episode.
Yeah.
To go on, but I found myself kind of zoning out.
Yeah.
In this episode a lot. It was just kind of I don't know about you, but it was just kind of boring to me.
Yeah, I can kind of see that and kind of sympathize with it. I was kind of interested in like some of the ideas they could be going forward with, but at the same time, like it feels like they introduced like their quote unquote main antagonist a little too early, because what this series kind of reminds me of a little bit is like if we were going to go like a Psycho-Pass route, for instance, we would get a few like kind of isolated cases, figuring out more about this division, what they do, how they operate, stuff like that, before getting into the main plot. It feels like they're kind of getting into the main plot a little too soon.
There's like it's the second episode, and there's a very tense case that they have to solve
immediately.
And with this situation, you would either have to have a very interesting case, that you could have the characters kind of be built upon that case,
And
or take the time to explain the characters first and then go into the case.
which I feel would have been a better way to go about it, because I think that because the idea of like this Chinese this kind of demon bird thing, which actually was a pretty cool it's actually a pretty cool legend and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but like its blood has the ability to make another's kind of go berserk or something like that, which that could be really interesting and could be like a pretty big deal. The problem is they're introducing it a little too early, and they didn't really kind of set up any sense of mystery. These another events have gotten a little bit out of hand. We don't entirely know what's up yet. But we're slowly finding clues to figure out about this stuff.
They went through a couple cases, I think, in this episode.
Yeah.
They just kind of zip, zip, zip. This is what happened.
Yeah.
That's the kind of situation I think they should have taken a couple episodes to actually, give them a couple cases to have some time to, get you into the characters before moving on
or hell, not even just necessarily the characters, just the Midnight Organization themselves. Figure out what exactly they do, how exactly they operate.
Because all we got right now is okay, this is Men in Black. Essentially.
Yeah. there are alternate beings. Most people cannot really hear them or understand them, which makes you wonder how long they've been able to do this anyway, if nobody has been able to translate them. I could accept it if they had a device or something that would allow them to translate, but then it's a rare thing for people to be able to understand them naturally or something like that. But it seems like
nobody can.
Yeah. And so every once in a while, or hell, even have the main character have a special ability like that. It would have been more interesting if, it just kind of brings me the question of how have they been able to operate this long if they are just going off of intuition?
It's a little bit hand wavy.
Yeah, it's
for sure.
That's how we're doing it.
The main character, it seems like the only reason he's important at all is because he has this random ability.
Yeah, which... okay,
he's important to them, but I don't care myself, really.
Yeah, it doesn't...
I want to know more about himself.
I want to know more about, kind of going back to Psycho-Pass, the main character, Kane Tsunemori, who I will go on record and say she's actually one of my favorite female characters of all time, for a few different reasons, but kind of going back, kind of just using her as an example, she isn't anyone particularly special. She's... the thing about her is she's got a stronger willpower than most, but it doesn't inherently make her, ridiculously special. This is something that anyone could feasibly do, but she's just sort of gifted in that regard. It feels kind of earned. Not just, there's apparently a person who just all of a sudden has this ability, and is just immediately important to the... He feels like more of a plot device or a MacGuffin than an actual character.
And we're in episode 2. It's a little early for MacGuffins.
Yeah, which if they want to... Personally, yeah, if they want to keep my attention, they're going to have to make him a little bit more interesting, or just make the bureaucracy a little bit more interesting. It's hard to make bureaucracy interesting. Don't get me wrong, but you can do it well. Understanding how the organization works, what exactly it is they do, figuring out how they go about things. The stuff they've done, kind of transferring it, kind of sharing information with other branches and stuff, that to me was fascinating. Okay, we don't have information, but another branch of the night shift basically does know that, so let's consult them. That stuff I thought was really cool. But it just, kind of trying to figure out, we have this sort of, a person who just is able to all of a sudden understand them. That makes no sense. Once again, if they're kind of combining the whole, magic and science thing, giving people, a device or, a potion or something to be able to make these regular people, or people at least who have the potential to see them, be able to actually hear and understand them, then I could stomach it a little bit better. But
so one more episode, at least.
Yeah, at least.
It might surprise us. Who knows?
Yep. Next up, One Punch Man Season 2. So, One Punch Man the action scenes got a little better this episode.
Yeah, I will say that some of the cuts with the Genos and Sonic fight, it was a little cool. Like when Genos and Sonic were going around really fast, and it kind of showed him like get behind Sonic a few times. It was kind of cool. Obviously not One Punch Man season 1 worthy. But I don't want to talk about that for the rest of the season.
Yeah, because here's the thing we're gonna say. As I said last week when I watched the first episode, I recognize this is not going to be One Punch Man season 1. It's just not going to be as visually impressive. I know that going into it. It's going to be hard to not compare it every once in a while. But I want to do that sparingly.
Yeah, I say we should do our best going forward to not bring up comparing it to One Punch Man season 1.
Because I recognize going forward, it is just not going to be the spectacle that the first season was. It's just not going to be. I recognize that, and going forward, I personally am going to do my best to just kind of judge this season on its own merits, which, on its own merits so far, it's doing pretty good. The content,
the writing's
story,
still good.
Yeah, the writing is still funny. The dialogue, still reasonably snappy and cool and hilarious. And just Saitama just being kind of a deadpan straight man to everything crazy going around him. It's hilarious to watch.
I like seeing his we gotta see another serious series move.
Side by side jumping.
Yeah.
And apparently just him jumping side by side was just enough to blow Sonic backwards.
Yeah, it's always interesting seeing how much of a gap that Saitama has between him and anyone else in the show. Even all these ridiculously powerful S-class heroes.
Yeah.
They're just they're nothing to him pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. And that's downright hilarious. It's a ridiculously funny concept. Just the concept in itself, it's it's a guy who can beat everything in one punch. That doesn't sound fascinating. It doesn't sound all that okay, how are you going to keep my attention every week? But no, they managed to make Saitama an interesting character in his own right.
Well, and a lot of what makes One Punch Man interesting is the characters around Saitama.
Exactly.
Like Genos. He's this super serious, I gotta get stronger.
Yeah, he could have easily just been the main protagonist of any shonen series and could have...
He does play that role, kind of, of that, that protagonist that has to build up and make himself stronger. But he plays second fiddle to Saitama.
Oh yeah, exactly. Despite the fact that he's ridiculously powerful.
Yeah. And I think it's actually interesting seeing those bits with Genos, because we see him over the course of the first season and this season get slowly upgraded and learn more how to fight cooler. Mm-hmm. So like I said, he does feel that kind of power crawl feel of where the main character just slowly gets stronger and stronger and stronger.
Exactly. And meanwhile, and obviously he's trying to aspire to be like his master, like Saitama, who who apparently just had the ability to just get ridiculously strong just through relatively normal training. Yeah. Saitama's still a mystery.
So, friend of ours brought up that an interesting point, that in this world, villains become super powered villains based on their desires.
Yeah.
In the first season, there was a guy I ate so much crab, I became a crab monster.
Yeah, exactly.
I like cars so much, I became a car monster.
Yeah, stuff like that.
So he was saying that Saitama really, really wanted to be a hero. He tried so hard every day. He didn't stop training. Always did that intense regimen he had. So I think his wish to be a hero
materialized and actually turned him into a hero.
So maybe Saitama's a monster.
Huh. that actually could be an interesting way of going about it, because we got also introduced to, at least as far as we can tell, the main antagonist, or at least main antagonist for this arc, Garo.
Yeah. Right now he's ridiculously strong. He took out an entire room of criminals, who would probably be about on par with at least B-class heroes. Yeah, C, B. There's probably not any A's in there. Well, we know there's not any A's in there because the A-rank heroes were able to easily deal with all of them.
Yeah,
they pretty much put them in their place.
But the thing is that Garo was able to kill and or maim those 3 A-rank heroes like they were nothing. and then proceed to kill everyone else in the room.
Well, kill or maim. It was
Yeah.
kind of left open to interpret.
Which
we know he didn't kill the important political guy.
Yeah, he's an interesting villain so far because it kind of reminds me like sort of like somebody who's Joker-ish, I guess. Like not
Giving
Joker
up on society.
Not Joker from Persona. Just for the record,
Yeah,
I mean
I know
Joker.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, just kind of clarifying
From
that.
Batman.
Yeah, from Batman. Just somebody who is like kind of embracing the insanity and like the chaos and just the monster that he truly is, because he doesn't like humans. He likes monsters, and he wants to be as much to be a monster. And I think that's fascinating in its own right.
I do hope they give us a little more information on him.
Yeah.
Because all we know now is that he's just going around beating up heroes to power himself up to eventually... I don't know. I don't know what his end goal is, really.
We also know that a lot of people are talking about the supposed, like, godlike threat that's supposed to be, like, attacking the world.
Prophecy.
Yeah, that prophecy that was brought up, I want to say in Season 1? Was that brought up in Season 1? I don't remember. I think it was, but point being, there's, like, a huge threat supposed to be coming, and people are getting scared, and that's why there were all these criminals there, and Garo just fucking killed most of them. Yeah, so
what was the other bit was, something Blizzard.
Yeah.
I don't remember what her name was. It was
like Manic Blizzard or something like that, or
it was Tornado's younger sister.
Yeah.
Which I thought it was going to be her older sister.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, she's tiny and
because
she's less tiny.
Because she looks like a grown ass woman, but then her older sister looks like a lolly psychic, which
a sassy lost child.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, her biggest thing is that she recognizes that she will never go anywhere in A class. She just knows that. So she's kind of...
She tells herself that. Mm-hmm. Because she's not even trying anymore at this point.
Or she believes that she'll never go anywhere with A class. So she's totally content with being the top of B and keeping everyone else below her in B. Because she doesn't want more people to surpass her. Because inferiority complex, hating her sister, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, she's a good example of the main way this series is interesting, is having all the characters around Saitama and interacting with Saitama.
Yeah.
Because those are pretty understandable motivations. Like,
exactly.
She's wanted to be the best, but she's, like, ever since she was little, because her sister was so gifted, she's never been able to really shine, because her sister's always taking all the spotlight.
Exactly. And
so she's just trying her best to be somewhat relevant in this world of heroes.
Yeah, and the thing about Saitama, like, yeah, he's more akin to like a force of nature. Like, but he is an interesting character also in his own right, because yeah, his motivations may not be necessarily like the most like deep or interesting, but at the same time, as I've said before, Saitama is like pretty much the epitome of somebody going through a midlife crisis, but he's like in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
And basically he's just kind of trying to find meaning in like basically a world where he's like, well, now what? And I think that's a pretty human like emotion too. Like when you've ascended to the top of something, or when you think that you've gotten somewhere, you're just constantly wondering, what now? What's the next goalpost? Like, it's just constantly going to, like, a never-ending finish line. And Saitama is a good character for that, a good vessel for it. It makes him relatable.
What will happen next week in the adventures of Caped Baldy and Demon Cyborg?
Yep. The two new nicknames for our heroes.
So, next up is the Rising of Shield Hero.
Speaking of heroes.
Very... pretty sad episode.
Yeah.
Like, so going back to like the whole Raid Shield complaint I had a while ago, I didn't really care about the characters at that point. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really feel Nafumi's like rage, like why he was so upset about everything, because I just didn't care as much. I wasn't attached to everything.
Yeah, you hadn't gotten as much of an attachment to them. You didn't really know like you knew that Raftalia had had a shitty childhood. And you'd been told that, and you could kind of infer that based on some clues. Here, we actually got context into what that was.
Yeah.
Like, what exactly made Raftalia the person she is now?
And also, by this point, I care about her more, so it definitely hit me a little harder seeing her go through this character, because I care about this character, and then seeing her have this really shitty upbringing, and just being, like, tortured all the time, and just her conflict of being in complete despair, but also trying to smile the whole time.
Yeah.
Because her parents told her, like, you should smile, especially more when it's a terrible situation, to help other people feel better.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the disappointment of last season that was Price of Smiles, like just trying to
smile all the time.
Yeah, just trying to like make it through, like basically like the fake it till you make it sort of approach, which I think that's a reasonable reaction, trying to inspire hope in people around you. And that's what she was doing, and ultimately by inspiring people around her, she was going to help herself. Unfortunately, eventually it broke her, because like the scene when she was getting taken away in the cart, just I've forgotten how to smile.
Oh god, yeah, so sad.
Yeah,
so sad seeing little Lolly Raftalia be just broken.
Yeah, and seeing her start to get sick, and seeing like her friends start to get sick. Rifana, I believe her name was. Yeah, and oh my god, like the scene when she found out like the truth about what happened to Rifana, that actually got me a little choked up.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
we all see it coming. We all saw it coming, obviously,
but just the way they handled it.
Yeah,
like,
you just hear her just bawling in the other room, and
then like slowly like start to and just sort of like the little wolf boy whose name I forget, like had basically, she's like, well, where's Rifana? And just like that kind of solemn look on his face, and just kind of pointing, like he didn't want to, like it felt like he wanted to say something, but couldn't bring himself to say it. So he basically was just like, you need to see it for yourself. Just, that's really the only like true respect I can give you.
Yeah. And
that's what it felt like to me. And that was sad.
Yeah. The villain is super cliche.
Yeah.
How, first of all, Raftalia was like, I'm going to kill you. And Naofumi was like, no. You'll just become like him.
Well, no, she kind of came to that realization on her own.
Well, he's like, what can it do for you?
Yeah.
And then she's like, no, I can't kill you. I'll just become like you. And he's like, I fell out the window because
I'm an idiot. And
my hubris.
And I slipped on a whip that I had left on the ground because I'm an idiot.
Yeah, that whole spiel was like, okay.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's like the whole I was actually curious what Naofumi would do. Like, and he kind of did remind Raftalia of just the idea that, well, she's become a much stronger person. She doesn't need to stoop to his level.
But, I don't know. It feels disingenuous. It feels like they're just doing it because that's what has always been done. Because, in my opinion, it's a lot more interesting to see a character has a kind of a lot broader view of the world, because now Naofumi, he seems like that kind of character. I think it would have been a lot more interesting in the situation if it's just like, yeah, kill him, or
just do what you want. Like, he should have just stayed by his do what you want philosophy, and
exactly like it just felt like it kind of went back to a generic.
Yeah, like
you have to be the good person.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
Which, I mean, it could have even just like he could have even said something to the effect of, killing him would actually just be more trouble for us in the long run.
Mm.
It could have even just been something like that, like him basically trying to point him out as being like the more pragmatic character, or even Raftalia sort of starting to realize like that just by being around him. That would have been interesting. But yeah, the whole no, I can't. No, I won't kill you. That was a little cliche.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say that took away from the emotional takeaway from this episode.
And then we get the whole, I'm summoning a monster.
This will totally go well for me, and it won't get me killed in any way. Yeah, I thought he was gonna get eaten.
I was expecting him to get eaten. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody had had dubbed over like that scene, like, and just included like the Monty Python theme, and then like when the foot crushes them to just like if somebody had done that, it would have not surprised me in the least. If somebody with a little bit more experience creating GIFs and stuff, someone do that, please, because that would be hilarious.
Begging for memes on the internet. You begging for people to make memes for you.
Yeah, I actually also thought it was interesting, like seeing like Raftalia's childhood and sort of like we need to make a flag to kind of we want to make a flag that represents our home, and just that little bit where I'm sorry I couldn't make a better flag for you. Like, no, this is fine. Like, and her still holding on to that flag at the end. Just little.
That scene was very emotional for me and very sad. Why did he leave the skeleton in the cage? I guess maybe he didn't need to use the cell.
I guess not. Like, I don't know. Like, because reasons. That's a good point. I guess because we wouldn't be able, like, it would have been one thing if she had maybe been like still alive or something like that, and it had just been barely hanging on.
I mean, that's a silly complaint that I have. It's not really a complaint.
Yeah, it's a nitpick.
Yeah,
I agree. So we'll finally see the resolution of this episode.
They're gonna fight the dragon thing.
Yeah, fight the
dinosaur.
T-Rex. Whatever the hell it is. Some ancient monster that was sealed beneath.
for plot reasons.
Yep. Let's. What could possibly go wrong here? Next up, RobiHachi. So I was kind of right in the fact that this was a little bit of a Space Patrol Luluco-esque show.
Like, gonna go to a different place every episode.
I think so. Yeah. It's what it seems like.
Kind of little self-contained stories.
Yeah, this was all about them going to Mars.
So, really quick, it's episode 2. I feel like I shouldn't like this show, because the writing's it's nothing particularly groundbreaking. It's just kind of silly situations and silly characters.
It's really just silly and kind of over the top. But I'd say that it's just self-aware. It's aware of itself and what it's doing, and it just is kind of. It's strangely genuine about it too.
The voice actors are doing it, or what's doing it for me.
Yeah, the voice actors and the way they kind of bounce off each other. Yeah,
they're so genuinely silly about the situation, and they perform the situation so stupidly well.
Yeah, I actually feel for the little robot assistant that Robbie has, because he is basically trying to play the straight man here. Like, just like, will you stop arguing already? Like, I'm not the bottom half, it's like, I'm not the bottom half, stop calling me bottom half. And just that whole bit, like, it's not, like you said, it's nothing particularly groundbreaking as far as, like, humor and comedy goes, but it's just, like, there's something still kind of
dry, kind of slapstick.
There's something still refreshing about it. It's just an enjoyable series to watch so far. Like, I agree, I don't think I should be enjoying it as much as I am so far. It's just fun.
I'm also interested in Robbie's tastes in women.
Because apparently he's totally okay banging a squid.
Yeah, he's like, oh man, sexy lady, sexy squid lady.
Yeah, but then
even though they're in, I'm assuming their costumes are probably pretty well made.
Yeah, they have to be. The interesting thing about this is that Mars is apparently just a tourist attraction. That's all it is. Like, their whole shtick is that all the people on Mars are squid people. Turns out they're not really squid people. They're regular people just dressed up as squid people.
Yeah, I guess in this universe there was people living on Mars before humans got
before it had been completely terraformed. So they had to.
Well, no, it was before humans were there in the first place at all.
That's right.
First contact was them just living there in domes. And going outside in suits that made them look like squids.
And then they just like them kind of waving at them. Yeah.
Which that also means that their first contact with the universe was via humans from Earth.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh shit, we gotta be relevant. So time to fucking bust up tourism and pretend we're squid people so humans will keep visiting us.
Exactly. And I think that's a pretty hilarious concept, especially when especially when Robbie and Hachi had a conversation about this before. It's like, oh yeah, they're all squid people. It's like, what year are you living in? It's like that's not. It's like that can't be true. It's like that can't be true because that's just a thing written by H.G. Wells. Turns out, oh yeah, well, it is true. It's like, oh, they're actually squid people, like squid gas station attendants
selling takoyaki.
Yeah, selling takoyaki. But then you find out, oh, they're not really squid people. They're just people in costume. This episode was just. It was goofy, but it was fun.
Yeah, if the rest of the series is just this, I'd love it. Just them going to different planets, different kind of self-contained short stories.
Yeah, little like different shenanigans and stuff like that.
Robbie trying to go around and somehow make money and escape from debt collectors, and Hachi just fucking loving every minute of it.
Just loving the absurdity of every situation he finds himself in, because that's the thing about it. He just wants to find a life that he can't predict.
Fuck yeah, I'm in jail on Mars.
I'm going to jail.
I'm going to Mars jail. So next up is Sarazanmai.
Let's start off with the elephant in the room. It seems like there were a lot of recycled assets this episode.
Yeah, only in the action scene.
Yeah.
But that was like, it was almost a shot for shot just copy of the first really impressive action scene.
Yeah.
It's a lot less impressive when you're watching it the second time in a different episode.
Like maybe they're trying to make a point on that, like the whole because they made an interesting point about it, like when it's like, oh yeah, collect the Shiriki Dama from people, and then you'll get this dish that'll grant you a wish if and then the guy's like, oh, so should I just wish for like a year's supply of cucumber rolls? Summon giant cucumber roll.
Yeah, that was a clever way of getting introducing the premise, but also just getting that out of the way so it wouldn't matter until next time.
Really? And so kind of getting back to what I was saying, like if that's kind of the joke where it's supposed to be kind of the same, and maybe even the characters start to realize this is stupid. Like this is really just like, it's literally the same thing over and over again. Like, and just kind of realizing how mundane and repetitive their job is.
I mean, Haruhi did that with the Endless Eight. And I don't think anyone liked it. The creators were like, "Ha! Look at this joke. It's self-aware." So even if they do make it into the joke of repeating that every episode, and they're like, "Haha, we're repeating this every episode,"
I hope they don't do that for much longer. But yeah, that's the one complaint I have about this episode.
Yeah, I agree. Everything except that short, like 4 or 5 minute, action sequence was great. I love this episode.
And while I said before, like, it was impressive the first time, and it was hilarious the first time because I wasn't expecting it, just seeing, like, a bunch of little Kappa boys just all of a sudden just start breaking into a musical number.
I understand reusing, like, the transformation scene.
Yeah.
Because everything does that. Like, every magical girl, whatever...
Yeah.
Super Sentai.
Yeah, exactly.
They reuse the transformation scenes because it's like, whatever, if you do that, you can focus more effort on the other stuff.
Exactly.
But the whole fight,
not so much. Like, it actually would be kind of hilarious if, like, next episode or, like, an episode or in a couple episodes they say, can't we do something different about this or something like that? Like, as long as that joke doesn't overstay its welcome like the Endless Date did, but...
The learning more about the characters is the most interesting part of this episode for me. Just the main character, we learned how because we thought he was actually the idol.
Yeah.
But he's not actually. He's just dressing up as the idol and sending texts to his younger brother. I'm assuming to make his brother happy.
Yeah.
To cheer him up because he really likes the idol. He's like, oh, I'll just pretend to be the idol and make him feel important.
I don't imagine that's the sole reason. There's got to be more to it than that. Now,
there's definitely more to every character.
Yeah, like we're only 2 episodes in, and we are just starting to kind of scrape the surface.
Yeah, I didn't expect the edgy guy just to be growing and selling weed.
I know, right? Just like that's weed, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, okay, so. He keeps calling it herb.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's a translation thing or if that's like
herb is a common way of referring to, it's one of the street names for marijuana.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it could also be like we don't want to actually talk about marijuana in our show explicitly.
Yeah.
But it could also be like this is actually catnip, and I'm just calling it herb to throw the audience off. Haha, it's a joke.
Maybe. Because, Nyantaro, the cleverly named cat that was kind of just adopted, had stolen...
Adopted, yeah.
Yeah, adopted.
I really quick aside, I absolutely love how they use the end of the action scene to just go back and show us kind of more of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Kind of like the truth under everything else.
Yeah.
I love that. That's probably one of my favorite things about the show so far.
Yeah. But so far, we've only seen it about Kozuki. Like, that is his name, right? Or is it Kozuki?
I don't know. I have no idea so far.
I think it's Kozuki. Anyway, so he is so far we've only seen stuff revealed about him specifically. Like, the past 2 episodes have done that. I don't entirely know the reason for this, but it seems that he is, at least for now, like the one they're focusing the most attention on, because his first secret was, oh, I'm dressing up as the idol. The second secret was, oh, I stole a person's cat and pawned it off to my little brother and made it a street cat so that it could just be the neighborhood cat and it would make my little brother happy.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a super good person.
Yeah.
Like, good intentions, sure. Like, wanting to make people happy, but
kind of
just steal someone's cat.
Yeah, a little bit of a sociopath, which is hilarious considering the delinquent kid is just a downright psycho too, because he was helping his older brother waterboard somebody.
Yeah. I'm assuming his goal is that he wants to get his brother out of that life.
Yeah. Which, quick aside, the mob brother, by the way, is voiced by one of our favorite voice actors,
whose name I can never remember.
Yeah, Mr. Giraffe.
Yeah, the guy who voiced the giraffe in Revue Starlight, and among many other roles.
Ogata, yeah, and one of the cats in My Roommate is a cat. Anywho, he probably wants him out of like the life, the criminal life.
Yeah, he's trying to make money to make that happen.
Yeah, in a kind of messed up way himself. He's manufacturing and selling drugs to people, it looks like.
And then the main character, I guess he wants to make his brother happy. There's probably more to it than that. Yeah. But at least that's what we see right now. And then the meek-looking guy, he wants to be friends with the main character, but also maybe more than that, because at the end of the episode, he just kisses him.
Yeah, I was like, what?
And then they just cut out at that point.
I thought that was like, huh, okay, you have my attention. Like, let's be fair, the show had my attention after the first episode because of that action sequence, but that was just like, interesting.
Cop scene.
The cops doing the super gay dance.
Oh man, those I love that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty much confirmed at this point that they are the antagonists.
Yeah, like
so they are. Desire is like the main driving force in this series, is what it seems like.
Yeah.
And while the main characters are working with the Kappa to extract their desire when the people turn into whatever monsters they are, Kappa zombies, I think they were.
Yeah, Kappa zombies.
To just kind of calm the person down, these cops seem to like blow it up. They blow up their desire and make them turn into these monsters for whatever reason.
Exactly.
I think their thing is people should embrace their desires instead of hiding them.
I probably, like, almost definitely. And I wonder if that's going to be a thing for any of the main characters. Like, they're going to try and pull that shit on them. Maybe. So next up, and last on our list, we never learn BOKUBEN. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a show that I can't call bad.
Yeah,
far. We've watched 3 episodes, and elephant in the room, we're gonna drop it.
Yeah, we are going to drop this show. Now, that isn't to say that it's a bad show.
Yeah, so I like the premise of the 2 characters in situations where they're good at something. They're really good at one thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean they want to do that one thing. Just because everyone says they're good doesn't mean that's... It almost feels like they're going against the world. Yeah,
which that's reasonable. And I think that kind of also ties into the third girl, whose name I forget, but she, like the tomboyish girl who wants to kind of be like a princess. But she was always told, no, you can't do that. And so It's all about, I think, for at least the girls wanting to just kind of go against what people have constantly told them all their lives, which that's an interesting concept.
Yeah. But unfortunately, their personalities are pretty flat.
Yeah, their personality.
Like it's this show is just like hitting every checkpoint in the harem book of like a generic harem.
Oh,
show.
I walked in on a naked girl.
Yeah, I saw that coming a mile away.
Just oh no, it's like, oh, nobody's home, huh? Okay, I'll just go up the stairs.
As soon as we got to that point,
and they even like made like a tongue-in-cheek sort of like, let's draw this out as long as possible. It's like, wow, the stairs are super soft.
Yeah.
Like it's all like nobody could hear you walking up them.
As soon as we got to the point where he was going to let himself in, I was thinking like, okay, he's either going to walk in on her naked or walk in on her changing or something like that. And this is exactly what happened.
Ta-da! We called it. And just the main character himself is not particularly interesting.
I'm kind of interested in the girls.
Yeah.
I am 0% interested in the main character.
Because he's pretty much every like harem protagonist we've seen.
He is a self-insert and that's it.
Yeah. He's about as like bland as Keitaro from Love Hina, which while I love Love Hina, Keitaro at least in the anime was super boring.
Was he? I never saw it myself.
I read the manga. Manga was fine. I like the manga. But here's the problem. This guy Yuiga is just really uninteresting. He's just kind of a nice guy who's kind of pervy. He's smart, but he's had to work hard to get to that point. But he's poor and has younger siblings that he apparently has to take care of himself. It's like, okay, so the fact that he can do all this is ridiculously impossible, and would anybody really be that good of a person, really? Like, in spite of all this shit?
Yeah.
It feels a little unrealistic.
I said this last week or the week before about the show. We recently we're coming off of
Quintessential
Quintuplets, which was a somewhat like a generic premise of a harem show, but the main character was just so fun to watch.
Yeah,
and he was so interesting, and his personality just popped off the screen.
Yeah, it's sort of like watching any of the key adaptation shows, really, because like Clanad or
you got a really interesting main character.
Yeah,
and,
the main
this guy and this in Bokuben just kind of feels like a budget Futuro.
Yeah.
Because he's like that poor guy who had to work his hard way up.
Yeah, and Futuro was interesting because he was kind of snarky, and he kind of questioned, like, you're right. Why am I helping you?
Exactly, yeah.
Like, he was kind of aware of his situation. He wasn't just going along with it just because, oh, that's the right thing to do. He kind of questioned. It's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. What I'm doing makes no sense.
Yeah. So, we're going to be dropping this. That being said, I would still definitely recommend this show to someone who is a diehard fan of just harem stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to watch every harem thing. It's like, if you do, you're going to love this.
Yeah, it's not a bad show. Like, for me, it is just a little bit on the generic mediocre side. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just me and Rex speaking. And I'm sure a handful of other people. But, yeah, if you like harem shows, then this will probably be your cup of tea. So anyway, that's going to do it for this week of the Timesink Anime Podcast. We'll be releasing this, and then shortly after that, we will be releasing our seasoned review of Winter 2019. So look forward to that. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. We have a lot of stuff to talk about with that season.
Favorite this, favorite that, blah, 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 blah. Spoiler alert, if you want to see, then you have to go watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
You won't believe what happens next, etc., etc.
Blah, 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 speed.
Yeah, so, if you want to talk about anything you noticed this week, anything you want to talk about what we noticed, go and leave a comment below. If you're watching this on not YouTube, go to YouTube, leave a comment below, or Twitter, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. Anyway, so if you want to just keep tuning in every week, then just subscribe, like, comment, all that fun shit. And until then, anchor away. We'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves.
When are you going to let me say the catchphrase?
I didn't know you wanted to.
I want to say the catchphrase!
Okay, say the catchphrase.
No, it's cut off. The video's over.